Okay, so obviously this bull has been brought in uncaped. A couple of things that I wanted to talk about before we dive into the actual caping of the head. Whenever you get your animal down, you want to make sure that you roll him up and make that incision up the back. Some of the things that people really mess up on is cutting this brisket off. They want to come down the leg and then they make a V right here, and the biggest thing that you want to do is you want to come down that hairline on the back of the leg, and then once you get in this armpit, follow that hairline and go straight back on the body. Don't try to V it into the brisket, because that's what happens, you cut the brisket off. We're to this point of caping this bull out, and the one thing that I have learned over the years that makes things a lot easier, and it seems kind of backwards, is to go ahead and bring this mouth and nose down. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this and we're gonna bring this down to about right there. And what that does is that gets all the fine details of making sure that you've got plenty of lip here. You know, don't be afraid to cape your own animal. You just gotta know the details of what to do. And if you shoot something you don't wanna mount, practice on it. Watch out for the teeth. One of the worst things you can do is get cut by the teeth. You can wear gloves if you'd like. As you can see, just make sure that you get as far up there as you can, because this right here is what they're gonna tuck into that mount. So now we're working into the sinuses. Just follow right up that skull. A lot of that stuff they're not gonna use, but the thing about caping an animal out is the taxidermist can cut whatever he doesn't need off, but he can't put anything back that's not there. Okay, and the same thing with this bottom jaw is just making sure that you give plenty of skin. If it gets in the way, you can either push the tongue back in to get it out of the way, or you can cut it off. So what we did is bring it to there. We're gonna basically take and flip it over. So right in here, you've made your cut up to here. When you get to the back of the horn, some people will do a Y cut. They'll make a Y. The taxidermist here in where we're at, he wants us to take it to the back of the horn and then do a T. He wants to come straight across instead of a Y. So that's just the preference of the taxidermist. Either one of them will work. So basically we've come all the way up, and then we've teed over to the back of the horn. And then at this point, once you get to here, one of the things that gets messed up is cutting the bottom of the ear off. You need to do the same thing that we talked about with the jaw, which is to stay as close to the skull as possible. And then going around the horn, so we've got it right here, all the way up to this burr. You're just gonna do a little bit of cuts at a time. You don't wanna go too big, because this is rounded, and if you go too big, you'll sit there and cut holes as you're coming around. Don't keep cutting right in here, because you'll cut the back of that eye. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna work this part of the base of the horn around a little bit. I'll probably come up here and take a little bit of this off and then go to the other side. But you just wanna do little cuts like I was talking about, because otherwise you're gonna have slices in your horn. So when you get to right in here, you'll see the back of that eye is coming up. So right in here, if you can't get that to start, just make a little cut right here at the base. And if you can get that to start, then it'll go ahead and go. See how I've brought this around to there? Now what I'll do is I'll jump on this other side and kind of get it to that point, and then it's a little easier to work. So you're working your way around to the back of this eye socket. You can see it starting to flare, okay? So what we're gonna do is we've basically got both sides right to the back of the eye. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go ahead and get this off of the horn, so that way we can work the eye sockets out. Okay, this is one of the important things, is see that eye socket right there? Reach in here with your finger in his eye and grab that and put your finger in there and feel the back of the eye. Now you're gonna stay the same thing, tight to the skull. A lot of people will cut the back of the eye off. Keep your finger in there. Now then, when you get to this point, not all animals have them, but elk have tear ducts. Deer have tear ducts. You want to keep pulling out and just cut a little bit right in here of the front corner of the eye, and then you've got to get this tear duct. You don't want to cut the tear duct off. Right here is the corner of the back corner of the mouth. You can reach in here and cut this because we know that we've already got plenty of hide. It's not going to matter a whole lot, but you've got to cut this quite a bit back in here. So we're working our way around this tear duct, reaching up in here, pulling back, okay? Because that all is up inside that pocket. You just got to keep pulling it back and stay as tight to the skull as you can. Right there is the stuff that comes out of his eye and drops into that tear duct. So there's a hard deposit down inside there, and you got to be careful not to cut that off. And so what we're doing is we're going to wind up matching up with what we did earlier by bringing that mouth and nose down. We'll get the other side done the same. Now then, on this side, you can see here's the back of the mouth. And we've already gotten most of it. If you need to look, see the bottom of the mouth's here. But I'm going to cut it off here. Like I said, they can cut it off if whatever they don't need. So here in just a second, we're going to see where we left off. Stay tight to the skull. And now you're going to see why I said this is an easier way to do it. By going with that mouth and nose first. Because now, see, I didn't have to fight that. I didn't have to try to figure out if I've got enough skin coming off of that nose and the mouth. I didn't have to figure that part out. And that's it. But that's the trick of bringing this down first. Like I said, the best thing to do is just practice. Pick one that you don't want to mount and try it 2 or 3 times and see if you can get it right. So what we're going to do, we've pulled the cape off, and the way we do it, because we're going to carry this head out, is we're going to remove the bottom jaw because there's no reason to carry that out of the woods. So you're just cutting this muscle right here. You just follow the same thing, sticking to the skull. You just follow that muscle right there. Now right here, the back of this right here, that jawbone comes up into here. So you're going to take and make a cut, sticking to the skull, and you'll make a cut right in here, and that's going to release that jaw muscle. Do not cut yourself with the teeth. Reach right in here and cut this back of the mouth, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. Right here along this muscle, same thing here. You can see the jaw's already starting to release. So then you're going to reach in here and finish cutting the back of this. And then you can just grab it and push it over. And you're just going to finish cutting it off. There's a bone that comes right up in here to the base of the skull. And then you can leave that in the woods. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to give you a quick, simple way to remove the ivories. These are the elk ivories. And a lot of people, and I used to do it the same way, is sit there and take a knife and try to cut them out. You do not want to pry them sideways because you will bust the base of the ivory off. But here's a quick, simple way to pull them out. Just take a board and a hammer, or a board and a rock, and drive them straight back towards the teeth. Yeah, it's out. And that right there, and it doesn't do any, even if you're going to Euro it, you're still going to take and knock these out. But there's no really any cutting involved. Now you can take and get it out, but it's basically been knocked out.